April 12, 1942. St. Luke's Hospital, Iloilo City, Philippine Islands. The rain has stopped, but the air still smells of diesel and antiseptic. Fluorescent bulbs buzz overhead. Canvas stretchers creak as exhausted soldiers shift sleepily beneath mosquito nets. In the corridor, a group of Japanese officers. Lacquered boots, brass insignia flashing, cigarettes drooping from their lips, laugh too loudly about the helpful Filipino nurses, who bow and smile and will tea trolleys past their rooms. Lieutenant General Masahiro Tsubaki, broad-faced and certain, pats the arm of Captain Saito, who snorts and says the nurses are harmless women. But in bed 7B, under a white sheet, Nurse Amalia Molly Reyes, 26, short hair pinned back with a rusted safety pin, is awake. Her hands, steady from stitching shrapnel into torn flesh, stitch something else now. A narrow strip of paper folded into the hem of a bandage. The bandage will be taken to an infirmary officer who'll carry it out later tucked inside a medical supply crate. Across the ward, Sister Rosario Charo de los Santos, a reserve army medic with a past as a telegraph operator, cradles a thermos that has a hollowed-out liner. Inside, a tiny radio receiver, its earpiece hidden under a hairpin. The receiver is tuned to coded broadcasts. The thermos is shown to Japanese patrols without a second glance. You feel the hospital's rhythm, the soft moan of a patient, the sharp metallic clink of surgical instruments, the distant sound of Japanese boots on gravel. Outside, the city hums under occupation. Inside, women in white move like ghosts through the ward, smiling at officers who mistake politeness for weakness. The following week, the smell of iodine lingers stronger than ever in the operating rooms. Outside, the flags of the rising sun flap lazily in the humid wind. To the Japanese officers, St. Luke's Hospital is a loyal medical outpost. Efficient, obedient, unthreatening. But beneath its sterile floors, a quiet revolution pulses through its hallways. Each night after curfew, when the soldiers' laughter fades and the power generators rumble low, the nurses gather in the dim light of the supply room. There, among crates labeled medical gauze, Imperial Army, a secret table stands. Maps, coded notes, and ration papers spread like veins on its surface. Amalia and Charo lead the meetings. Their reports come from field couriers disguised as patients, wounded laborers, who arrive at the hospital with shrapnel wounds that hide fragments of written intelligence sealed inside wax and cloth. Rosario's thermos radio crackles faintly as she decodes numbers whispered from guerrilla scouts hiding in the Panay Mountains. Every piece of information, troop movements, supply schedules, landing coordinates, is rewritten in hospital shorthand. Doses, vitals, and prescriptions. A Japanese sergeant flipping through patient charts would see only medical notes, not battle plans. By day, the nurses tend to their captors with gentle hands and lowered eyes. By night, those same hands guide resistance fighters through whispered corridors and shadowed stairwells that lead beneath the hospital's chapel. Down there, the air smells of mold and freedom, a secret passage that connects to the backstreets, where Allied couriers wait. Each heartbeat, each rustle of fabric, is a risk. If discovered, they would be shot, not as soldiers, but as spies. And yet, every dawn, Amalia straightens her cap, forces a calm smile, and greets the same men who would hang her without hesitation. May 3, 1942. A convoy of Japanese high command arrives at the hospital, a surprise inspection. Engines idle outside as boots stomp through the corridors. General Tsubaki himself strides in, trailed by aides and interpreters, the smell of tobacco heavy on his uniform. His laughter precedes him like gunfire. Our Filipino nurses, he jokes in halting English, make better tea than soldiers. The men roar with approval. Amalia bows low, her pulse steady, though a folded slip of code paper presses against her ribs beneath her uniform. Charo pours tea, the amber liquid trembling slightly in her hands. The officers' amusement grows. They joke that the nurse's only weapon is a thermometer. None notice how Charo's thermos, now resting beside a tray of cups, hums faintly with intercepted chatter. A Japanese colonel's order for a supply shipment to Mindoro, disguised as hospital cargo. Later, when the inspection ends, Amalia escorts the officers to their vehicles. One pauses, a young lieutenant with kind eyes but cruel certainty. He smirks and says, "You should be thankful. The Empire gives you purpose." Amalia smiles back, replying softly, "We already have one. That night, the women work faster." The intercepted coordinates are sent through their underground network, coded as medicine deliveries. Within 48 hours, guerrilla fighters ambush the convoy near the coast. An entire shipment of weapons captured intact. When reports reach the hospital, the Japanese officers fume in disbelief. How could peasants in the jungle know the exact route? They mock each other over sake, laughing nervously. None suspect that the women they mock over teacups have already rewritten the course of their war. By late May 1942, tension coils through St. Luke's Hospital like a drawn wire. Japanese soldiers now search incoming patients more thoroughly. Whispered orders echo through the wards. No one leaves after dark. Check all supply crates. Watch the nurses. Amalia feels it first, the weight of eyes following her through every corridor. One evening, while rinsing bloodied gauze in a tin basin, she notices a new figure in the doorway, Captain Saito. His gaze lingers too long, his silence heavier than the air itself. He steps closer, picks up one of her neatly rolled bandages, and inspects it as if searching for something invisible. Then, with a thin smile, he sets it down. "You work very hard, Nurse Reyes," he says softly. "Almost too hard." That night, the secret meetings move deeper underground, beneath the old morgue. The walls there are cold and damp, but the nurses whisper around a lantern's flame, their shadows flickering like ghosts. The resistance warns them. One of the Japanese officers suspects infiltration. Someone must have noticed the patterns. Still, they continue. Reports flow from the jungle, confirmation that Amalia's coded messages are saving lives, coordinating guerrilla raids, even helping smuggle American prisoners to safety. Yet with each success comes a growing sense of danger. One morning, a nurse named Teresa doesn't show up for her shift. Her locker stands open, her uniform neatly folded inside. The Japanese guards say she was transferred, but the women know her disappearance is a warning. And yet, as dawn breaks over the city, Amalia walks back into the ward, her face calm, her hands steady. She places a fresh bandage on a wounded soldier and murmurs, "Hold still." Inside that bandage, hidden deep in its weave, lies another secret message bound for the hills. June 10th, 1942. The sky above Iloilo burns gold at sunset, but inside St. Luke's Hospital, an unease hums beneath the calm. The nurses move through the halls with their usual grace, but every glance, every motion, feels measured. Whispers pass like currents between them. Someone has talked. The warning comes from a courier disguised as a janitor. The Kempeitai, Japan's military police, are planning a raid. Someone within the supply chain betrayed their route. The information trail, traced through patient records and coded prescriptions, points toward the hospital. Amalia's heart drums against her ribs as she slips into the operating theater. She gathers their records, the hidden cipher charts, and the thermos radio. Each item is small enough to burn or bury, but to her each carries months of life-risking intelligence. The story of how women turned medicine into warfare. She knows that to save her comrades, she must destroy everything. But before she can act, a thunder of boots echoes down the corridor. Shouts, guttural, commanding, sharp as gunfire, fill the hospital. Kempeitai. No one moves. Japanese soldiers storm the wards, overturning drawers, tearing beds apart. They seize nurses by the arms, shouting questions, searching for proof. Amalia hides behind the linen curtain, clutching a stack of charts to her chest. The lantern light outside flickers through the thin fabric. Shadows of soldiers, rifles raised, bayonets glinting. When a hand yanks the curtain aside, she freezes. Captain Sato's eyes meet hers. For a long second, there is only silence. The steady dripping of a leaking for bag, the muffled cries of another nurse being dragged away. Then Saito speaks, voice low, deliberate. "Tell me, Nurse Reyes, why are your patients always so well informed?" He slams the charts onto the floor. Sheets scatter like feathers. Hidden within them, one coded line of text lands beneath his boot, unnoticed. It reads, "Storm tonight, evacuate north route." Even as she's taken away for questioning, Amelia's mind clings to that message. If the code reaches the resistance in time, lives will be saved. That single strip of paper, lost beneath a soldier's heel, may yet change everything. June 11th, 1942. Midnight. The basement of the Japanese garrison smells of rust, sweat, and fear. A single bulb dangles from the ceiling, its light trembling against the stone walls. Amalia sits on a wooden chair, wrists bound, her white uniform streaked with blood and iodine. Across from her, Captain Saito leans against a table, smoking in silence. The sound of the lighter clicks open, shuts, opens again. "Who are you working for?" he asks. She stares ahead, eyes fixed on the smoke curling toward the ceiling. "For the patients," she replies. Sato's jaw tightens. He gestures to a soldier, who steps forward and plunges her hand into a bucket of cold water before slamming it onto the table. The pain shoots up her arm like lightning, but she doesn't cry out. Another blow follows. Still, she remains silent. Hours pass. Interrogations blur together. Questions, slaps, silence. When dawn seeps through the small window, Amalia is barely conscious. Yet her thoughts drift not to herself but to Charo and the others. Did they escape? Did the message reach the hills? Outside the city, the answer unfolds. The coded warning, the one Saito had stepped on, was found by a guerrilla courier disguised as a rice vendor. By midnight, the resistance had already vanished into the jungle, leaving the Japanese ambush waiting in vain under the storming rain. Back in the cell, Saito paces, furious. His superiors demand results, but there are none. When he turns back to Amalia, she's looking at him with faint amusement through swollen eyes. "You think we're just nurses," she whispers. "But we've already healed what you tried to destroy." He raises his hand, then hesitates. For a brief moment, even he feels it, the weight of futility. Outside, thunder rolls like distant artillery. Amalia slumps forward, half-conscious but unbroken. Her silence speaks louder than any confession. June 15th, 1942. For days after Amelia's arrest, St. Luke's Hospital has turned into a shell of fear. The corridors once filled with soft hymns and murmured prayers now echo only with the bark of Japanese orders. Soldiers prowl every floor. Every drawer and cabinet lies overturned. Yet beneath the terror, a pulse of defiance still beats. Charo de los Santos hasn't slept in 2 nights. Her hands tremble as she stitches the arm of a wounded officer, the same man who arrested her friend. But behind her calm expression, she's memorizing every word that slips from his lips. Amid his curses, he mentions that Amalia will be transported south for further interrogation, code for execution. That night, Charo gathers what remains of their group, 4 nurses and an orderly loyal to the resistance. In the chapel basement, lit by a single candle, they make a desperate decision. They will not let Amalia vanish into the dark. Their plan is reckless, to use the chaos of a false medical emergency to stage a diversion, free her, and send her into the jungle routes they once used for smuggling supplies. At dawn, the hospital is thrown into confusion. A sudden explosion rocks the courtyard. A fuel drum, accidentally ignited by a maintenance worker. Smoke fills the wards, alarms blare, and soldiers rush toward the flames. Amid the chaos, Charo moves fast, her white apron streaked with soot, her face calm. She reaches the detention ward, where Amalia, pale but conscious, sits in chains. "Time to go," Charo whispers. They slip through the side exit, ducking beneath a cloud of smoke. Gunfire cracks behind them, a soldier shouting, then another. They sprint toward the hidden tunnel behind the chapel, the same one they once used to smuggle radios and letters. As the tunnel swallows them, Amalia glances back at the burning hospital. For a moment, she sees her fellow nurses on the balcony, tending to real patients amid the chaos, still playing their roles, still fighting in silence. The Japanese would later record the explosion as a mechanical accident. No mention of missing nurses, No acknowledgement of what truly happened. June 17, 1942. The jungle outside Iloilo hums with rain and cicadas. Mud sucks at their boots as Amalia and Charo move through the thick undergrowth, guided only by moonlight and memory. Every step is agony. Amalia's wrists are torn from the bindings, her breathing shallow, but stopping isn't an option. Behind them, Japanese patrols sweep the hills with lanterns and dogs. By dawn, they reach a clearing where the resistance has set up a temporary camp. A young Filipino guerrilla, his rifle slung over his shoulder, salutes when he recognizes them. "You made it," he whispers, his voice trembling with relief. Inside a thatched hut, Amalia collapses onto a cot. Charo unwraps a bundle from beneath her uniform. A small stack of papers, hospital records, intercepted orders, and sketches of Japanese supply routes. Somehow, through everything, she managed to save them. The documents are quickly sealed into a waterproof satchel. Within days, they'll be transmitted through guerrilla radio to Allied command in Australia. Proof that the Filipino resistance is alive, coordinated, and unbroken. For the first time in weeks, Amalia smiles. Her face is bruised, her body weak, but her spirit unshakable. "We weren't just healing bodies," she murmurs, voice rasping. "We were healing a nation." Charo nods. "And now the world will know." Months later, Allied intelligence reports mention an unnamed hospital network that provided critical information leading to the sabotage of Japanese convoys in the Visayas region. No official credit was ever given to the women who risked everything to deliver it. Their names faded from records, their courage hidden beneath the label medical staff. But in whispered stories passed through generations, they are remembered as the angels of resistance. Women who fought without rifles, whose weapons were courage, compassion, and quiet rebellion. And though the Japanese commanders once laughed at the harmless Filipino nurses, history would laugh last, for their plans, their pride, and their empire were all undone by the very women they dismissed.